This podcast is for individuals who want to be transformed in their lives by listening to specific guests in the fields of faith, family, fitness, and freedom. As a teacher, life coach, husband, father, author, and founder of 40 Days of Deliverance, my intention with each podcast is to help you grow in these specific areas. Lastly, my hope is that you will begin to learn specific habits to introduce to your lifestyle so you can live a purposeful life that you feel fulfilled. I love you, and may the Lord bless you and keep you all the days of your life. Another order of business. I wrote a book called Freedom to Ascend, which is on sale now on Amazon.com. I will send a link in my show notes, so just click on it. It's a great price. It's a great read. So pick one up today. Another item of order, land. The Lord has given me a vision that I will be gifted land by some special soul. And this land will be used for deliverance camps to help people who are hurting and to help people come together as a family and friends and fellowship. So if you have land that you would love to donate for this cause, please go to the show notes, which I'll have my email, and just email me land. Another note, share this episode. This show is growing, and the only way it's going to grow faster is if you can do one thing. Share this episode with one friend or more. Also, if you haven't left a review, do that now as well. Just do it on your app you're listening to. Now buckle up and enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome everyone to the John Gardina Classroom. Today, you better buckle up because we have an amazing guest, Javier Mesa. I met Javier through the grapevine of individuals and also through the Bible app, YouVersion. So get on that app, start a devotional, join some new friends, and just see where the Lord leads you. So that's kind of how we connected. But I'm just going to give you a little background on Javier. He grew up in New York City, lived there until he was about 12 years old. He had a real rough time, and he'll talk about it when his testimony a little bit was about his uncle. He moved to Columbia and spent 4 years there. He moved to Louisiana when he was 16. Well, he had really no guidance, quit high school, and was living for his own flesh. He joined the army, but was not living a fulfilled and joyful life. He did meet a beautiful woman who he was married to and still married, happily married, and he has two beautiful children, Ava and Sam. He currently has a new job at the 4LP, Commercial Lightning Protection, and he's a stud. He's a man of God. He is a true warrior and patriot. And Javier, thank you so much for being here today.
Man, thank you for the invitation to be here with you, man, and the amazing introduction. I'm honored.
Hey, well, hey, I'm honored to be in your presence. So just get used to me propping you up because I know you're a child of God and you're doing great things. So we're going to start the show off a little different, okay? I was praying about it. I did some little deep diving, and I wanted just to spice it up to maybe get to see a guest on a different light by asking a couple of questions. So I'm going to ask you the first one. All right.
All right.
If you were a superhero, Javier, what would your superpower be?
Oh man, this is a question that my son asked me as well.
Oh, yeah.
And without a doubt, man, it would be time travel.
Oh, that's a good one. I would. Yeah. I like that. That's really good. I would like that.
I bet, and I bet you could guess where I would go first.
Yeah, I know you go. Maybe a couple thousand years ago. The BC
like
AD
that.
time, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, next question. What is your favorite book?
Well, I've read many, but I got to tell you, man, I am in the middle of going through. Okay, well, first I should say the Bible is, obviously my favorite
there you
book.
go.
However,
yeah, I know.
But book written by a man in the last 100 years, let's just say. I've read many, but I am currently doing a deep dive study on Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. And let me tell you, John, it is just knocking us out chapter after chapter, man. And I have a new appreciation for this book because of the group that I'm with, the dynamic, all the things we're discovering, the collective wisdom that's coming together, and what we're finding out about ourselves as men. So right now, it's up there, number one right now.
I read that a couple years ago, and it did touch my heart. And I just love what John Eldridge is doing. Just the way he writes, and just deep dive into your soul, and makes you reflect on, man, what am I doing in my life?
Yeah.
You know, right? So what is one takeaway right now that you have from the book?
Well, the wound, you know, the difference that our relationships with our fathers, the impact that those relationships have on our lives. There's a piece in there about the mother wound as well, but being a man, it's definitely the wound that my relationship with my own father has left, and how I could reflect on that and just exponentially create a better life for my own son and my daughter as well. So, and not repeat the generational dysfunction that's come before me.
Well, I just talked about that yesterday. I did a post on how important it is to model good behavior and character and act like your children are always watching you, because what they see is what they catch, right? It's not always what you talk about, it's what you model for behavior. So with that being said, I said, what if your children were following you all day long? Would you change your behavior? Right? Or would you maybe think twice about how you speak or how you act? So I think it's very important to be present with them. And what you're saying is exactly right. If we had a bad relationship with our own father, that we stop it in the gap. We go to God, and we start the new bloodline of divinity, really, with them. All right, we're getting deep, which I like already. This one's easy, okay? Who was your favorite teacher and why? And I know you didn't like school that much, but was there one person in school that you maybe admired?
You know, I got to say, my favorite teacher is a man I met in college. His name was Dr. Schwab, and he was a science teacher, and he taught biology. He taught all kind of different things, and I am not a big science fan. You know, not that. Of course, I appreciate it. I love what it's all about. But I struggled in school to learn, and science was difficult to me. All those big words, but it was him. It was the person that he was, or that he still is. He's still around. He was the most welcoming teacher I've ever met in my life. And that's what I needed at that time. I needed, I think maybe there was that father wound still in me. He was a man that was just very welcoming, very open, cared about all the students. It didn't hurt that he wore tie-dyed lab coats and stuff, so it's super cool, dude.
That's awesome.
So yeah, he's very relatable, very warm, welcoming, nice guy, man.
Well, the best teachers are those who connect well with their students, and it's not always about content; it's about connection. So, Dr. Schwab, if you ever listen to this, or your boy Javier, you had an impact on him, and I'm sure many other students as well. All right, this one actually plays off of number one, Javier. If you could go anywhere, now not time travel, but if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Man, I think I would. It's not exotic, but I think I would go back to my my home, Colombia, South America. That's where all my family's from. I remember I haven't been back. I came back here in '85, almost '86, when I was 15, almost 16, and I haven't been back. Now, my mom goes back all the time. We have a house in Medellin. My brother goes back all the time. I just haven't been back for whatever reason, but my memories of Colombia are amazing. And so I would love to go back there and just revisit everywhere I lived. Now that I've healed from my childhood, I'd like to go back and see those places through a different lens and visit my family that I left behind that is now a lot older. So there's just good memories, good people, maybe last chances to interact with people that I really love that I haven't seen in a while. So I think that's where I go.
That's a perfect reason why. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. I've never been to South America. But it sounds like it's a beautiful place, especially with family there and friends. So
Yeah.
I know I pray one
Yeah.
day you're able to go back, maybe you and your family.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. We will.
Okay. That's great. Last question. And this one's a good one.
All right.
When you go to heaven and you meet God, what do you want him to say to you?
Job well done, son. Well
I
done,
knew
my
it.
son.
Oh man, that's why I knew we had a connection. Yeah, that's it,
Uh-huh.
man. That's that. Well done, my good and faithful servant. And that's it. And
Mm-hmm.
you definitely are on your way to doing that. I can't wait to get
Thank you,
into
brother.
more of your story. So let's start off with that. Let's start off with a little bit of your childhood, because that's where,
Yeah.
just hearing already from you. You talked about your father, the wounds of your father. So just talk about you growing up in New York City and what that kind of looked like through your years of birth to 12 years old.
Yeah. So we were, we've all heard this story before. First generation Americans. This is in the 70s. Or I was born in 1970, and we were poor, but had no idea. We were poor because my mother did an amazing job of just providing a very loving home, and my dad, he was a very good provider. He worked around the clock. But from the moment I was born, he was working 3 jobs, which is why he was never around. As we get into the story of my dad, you'll realize that the theme is my dad was never there. My dad didn't do anything wrong. The only thing he did was provide and just not be there. Which is
Mm.
it's a big impact on especially boys. But anyway, so we lived there, and life was normal. It was we didn't have many friends, just the kids on the block, a small tight knit community, but we had a home that was full of love, and we did what I don't know. It just seems, it seemed pretty normal up until I guess around 7 years old, John.
Mhm.
Once I hit 7 years old, that's when the memories kind of just go away, you know,
Mm.
gone. And I can remember bits and pieces, I can remember little things. Like I can remember when I got my first bike. I'll never forget. It was one of them little bikes that looked like a dirt bike. It had the shocks on the back and a little gas tank and all. I mean, it was
Nice.
amazing. Knobby tires on it. And I felt free when I was on that thing. I felt it's the only place where I could get away from my thoughts and just like ride and jump things and all. So I remember that. I remember bits and pieces of playing sports. I remember when I got my first dog, but like life itself, like I don't remember much. I don't have a lot of memories from 7 forward. And then my childhood memories picked back up when we moved to Columbia. Obviously, I mean, big life changing event. Going from living in New York to just a completely different country. The only thing that was familiar to me when we moved to Colombia was Spanish and like Colombian food and things like that. The things that we experienced in our home, but it was just a completely different culture, different place. Um, there was a time when we went to a really nice school in New York called Thornton Donovan in New Rochelle. It was a school for really wealthy kids. My dad was a custodian there, so we got to go. It was one of his jobs, so we got to go there for free, and it was super interesting, man, because they just did such a good job. Like I still, even being among all these wealthy kids, I still didn't feel different. I didn't feel less than them. It just felt really awesome to be around these kids that had all these things that I didn't have, but like jealousy and desiring what other people had was not a thing in our home. My mom, which is very humble, and so anyway, it was a good experience, man. But during those years of like probably like 6 and forward is when, as far as my memory serves me, is when like the abuse happened, like for the first time, right? And I've been through therapy for all of this, and that is when I could pinpoint that the first time it happened, and my memory, not having memory from those years forward, is because immediately there was a suppression. You know, even though I wasn't old enough to understand, just I guess subconsciously, my reaction was to suppress and to suppress, forget, and that just had a huge impact on my childhood. You know,
So
when I speak,
I'm sorry to cut you off, Javier, but
no,
just to be clear and then have clarity for everyone, when you say something happened, you were 6 or 7,
yeah,
you mind talking about that exactly,
no,
or just
no.
some details? Okay.
No, not at all. I'll tell you this. Before I went through therapy and before I was saved, if I were to talk about these things, like they would just send me into a deep depression for 7 days or longer, and it was miserable. So, yeah, a family member of mine, I mean, just sexually abused me, you know, and it was. I don't know how to explain it. As a child, it was uncomfortable, you know. It was confusing. It wasn't until later on in life I realized what was going on. I mean, I was just but I always remember him saying things like, "Oh, you know, you're my favorite," you know, and I just, you know, you're the cutest and all that stuff. And then, yeah, so things like that, and it took a very long time to figure out what had happened. And then once I became a teenager, there was, you know, once we came back, there was another incident. And then that's when I started putting it all together. And once I put it all together and figured it out, then that's when I spiraled out of control, you know, because it was no longer suppression. It was just, an outburst of, you know, of just rebellion and just not caring and just trying to do everything I could to just be wild and crazy in my teens, and that lasted for a while, you know. So
Yeah, you know, just psychologically looking at it, it's kind of what I do at my job, and I'm blessed to do this. Is um, you know, you you start off with a loving family, so the value system is there in place. And these are your words. Your father worked hard, but he was never present. So that left a wound
yeah,
with you through those precious years of childhood. And then after or during, you know, being sexually abused, I believe it was your uncle who was a priest. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah, yep,
So, so you you have this place where you'd go to church, and a family member who you think is a trustworthy place. So then you don't know how to react at that time because you're too young. Then you moved to
yeah,
Columbia. You said you went to move to Louisiana, and when you moved there, another incident happened. And then when that happened, the spiral effect happened of rage, anger, rebellion, because all your emotions, it was like a tidal wave to your brain
yes,
of a shock and awe, to be honest. And you were living in that period where you basically said to the world, "Screw this! I'm ashamed of who I am. I'm
yes,
embarrassed. I have low self-esteem. My identity's ruined.
yep,
Why didn't someone step in?" And I'm just speaking. I'm not, you know, like what I would probably feel. Why did my dad do something? Why did someone do something? Right?
yeah,
How come someone didn't step in the gap? So for you, which is natural, all this pain, and then from there, talk through your story of after high school rebellion in the flesh. Talk
yeah.
through that period of your 20s and your 30s.
Yeah, so I made it to 11th grade, I think. the beginning of 11th grade, I was very rebellious, and basically I was going to get kicked out of school, and so I threatened to fight the disciplinarian and the principal of the school and anybody else who wanted to get in between. They kicked me off of campus. So that was my first real big, there was no control. My dad was gone and my mom couldn't handle me, and I could care less, And so after that, I went and got my GED within a week. Right. So it's an interesting thing, John. Like I would lash out, but then it was like in the cartoons where you got the little angel and little devil right here. God was working in me. I just had no idea. I would do all these things and then I would counteract them with something good. So quit high school, go get a GED. Then just, and then I just got whatever job I got and make a little money, then just go spend it all partying. And then when I get tired of being hungover for weeks on end or whatever, I guess after a year of that, I joined the Army, and then I joined the Army and I went to the National Guard. And so I do, you see what I'm saying? So good, bad. So then I joined Then I joined the National Guard, but I'm showing up Saturday for drill drunk, and no desire to ever rank up or anything like that, So eventually, my dad ended up buying a business in Hammond, Louisiana, which is where I ended up going to school. And I went with him. And that was a period, when we first bought that business, I actually got to spend time with my dad, and that was good. Yeah, that was good because him and I was the only one in the family working with him, and we worked, from 7 a.m. to 11, 12 o'clock at night. We slept at the business, took showers at the truck stop across the street. Anyway, there was a year or so where I spent time with him, and that was good. But then it's a college town, and I had all these friends that were starting to go to college there. And so there again, I'm doing good. I'm making money. I'm spending time with my dad. And then my friends start going to college. So I'll peace out. And I'm just now it's just one big old party with them. Again, showing up to work drunk all the time and fighting with my dad and doing all these things. And so, yeah, man, it was just that was a long cycle, man, because then I started going to college, and now I'm living in the apartment with my friends, and it's just night after night after night after night for years, everything from alcohol all the way up to you name it, it's the way it was. And, women, partying, alcohol, drugs, all those things. And so, man, it lasted for a really long time. I eventually graduated from college when I was 29. So, man,
talk about fifth year, sixth year, 7-year senior. I mean, I don't know how many years you were there, but it sounds like you had a good time. And you know what? I think what if I was listening right now, I would say, man, I've been there. I've been in that cycle of I want my freedom, which would be I want to do what I want to do. I want my drinking, the girls, whatever I want to do, the ego, right? Let's feed the ego. Okay. And the flesh. So, but you had this, like you said, you had this conscious, which we believe, the Holy Spirit saying, hey, Javier, be with your dad, work with your dad. Hey, finish college. Let's go. Hey, listen, I got good things planned for you. Quit messing around. But it's you had some discipline because you knew the path you had to get to for the good results, the GED, the graduate college, work with your dad. It was just not even close to a linear path. It was just messy in the cyclone. And you know what though? And you know what? Like you're showing, if everyone is watching, and guess what, everybody? I teach this all the time to my kids. Life is not even close to thinking like it's a perfect line of success and outcomes, and it doesn't work like that. Life is messy. But Javier is going to tell you next that once you have a pivot point in your life, and you just
Mm-hmm.
succumb, all right, you just throw your hands up, something happens. So talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about that from 29 to into your 30s, this new chapter of
Yeah.
your life. And I think if I remember correctly, this is when you met your wife in your
It was,
30s.
yeah, it was. So, but I'll go back just a little bit to, still in my 20s. I'll tell you why, after a lot of reflection, and praying, and clarity from healing, I found out that like that angel that was on my shoulder, it was God working through me, but
Mhm.
working through my mother. Like I found
Mhm.
out that I never wanted to let my mom down. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because she was a very faithful woman. She's just Catholic through and through. Still goes to church every Sunday. Always taught us about the Bible. So God was always present in me through my mom. And I always, there was a part of me that didn't want to let my dad down, but it was more, I didn't want to let my mom
Rem-
down. I didn't want my mom to think that she had this kid that was nuts, and all that partying and all that thing that was just a mask that I wore to not, so that I wouldn't be exposed to the world, to who I really was. And dude, you talk about like, people love me, man. Like
Oh,
really,
I'm
like,
sure.
oh, dude, we love, and
Yeah.
I was the best. Yeah, I was the best actor, man. I really was, and I was a good time. And and I'm the only one that graduated from college, right? So I was doing all these things, and I had this mask on, and I appeared to be all these things, but I was so broken, hurt on the inside. So anyway, so I graduate, college when I'm 29. I take off, dude. My parents were so proud of me that they handed me their credit card and said, go. So I went and drove around the country for 3 months, just wherever I wanted to go,
Nice.
you know? And that was like one of the first times I could ever remember when I really started thinking about life. I mean, it was just me, my Honda Prelude. Look, I'm dating myself, dude. I had a Honda Prelude. I had 2 boxes full of CDs, like all my CDs, and a credit card, and I just rolled out, man. I went everywhere. And so that's when I really started thinking about life and what I was going to do. So I came back, and I interviewed for a job in Miami. I left. I went to Miami again. Here I am doing good, right? Good. My life's getting straight, man. I got a first job out of college in Miami. How glamorous is that? I get promoted in 8 months. They send me to Tampa. I get all of Pinellas County. I'm like account manager. I'm just crushing it, right? But then here comes again, man. Like I start meeting people. Tampa is a big party city. Ybor City, man. I'm there every freaking weekend. And like, so here comes the lifestyle again. So I had to move back home. Long story short, I had to move back home because I was just spiraling out of control again. I moved back home, and about a year, 2005, I met Suzanne, who is now my beautiful wife and the mother of my two amazing children. And I was 34. She was 23. She was working at a sushi bar in the college town I went to, and I saw her, and I just had to have her. I mean, she was just beautiful. There was something about her. Like I knew she was the girl I wanted. People were like, "Oh, she's too young." I'm like, I didn't ask you how old she is. Just introduce me to her. There's something about her. I got to know her. And here we are, almost 20 years later. But that was the year 2005. If you know about these hurricanes we get down here, that was the year of Hurricane Katrina. So we met a couple of months before Hurricane Katrina in March. So I don't know, 5-6 months, whatever that is. And it was hot and heavy, man. We moved in immediately, and we started a really strong relationship. That relationship lasted that way for a couple of years, and then here comes the wave again, man. Like I just started going down, that dark road again, man. And both of us we were great for each other, but we were horrible for each other too, because we just instigated that lifestyle. We just partied all the time, and this stuff is now really bubbling up in me, John. Like, I can't suppress this anymore. It's just starting to come, man. It's just starting to come. And so, yeah, we lived that life for a while, and then Ava came. We were not married yet, Ava came, And at this point, I'm working in the oil and gas industry, and I'm away all the time. So now Suzanne and I have a child that's coming. I'm working on this job that keeps me away from home for months. And, Ava's born. And now guess who I'm becoming, dude? I'm becoming my dad.
Father.
Now,
Yeah.
yeah, Sam came along. We still were not married. We were engaged. We had like a 5-year engagement. Um,
Hey,
Sam came
Javier,
along.
let me stop you right there because I have a question that's
Yeah,
I think is very important for everyone
yeah.
here. When you were dating your wife, I'm sorry, your
Mhm.
a wife, you were dating her but not married yet.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
did your value systems align? Like, what I mean
I
by that
mean,
is like, same? Did you have did you have the same foundational beliefs in regards to like how you wanted to raise a family, the same Christian faith, were anything strong
yes,
alignment in beliefs? Okay,
we were very strong box checkers. You know what I mean? Like,
okay,
oh, what's
yeah,
church
yeah.
check? Um, in theory, yes. Because the very first date we went on, we talked about our hopes and dreams, man. Like what we were going to do, what we wanted our future to be. Like we were eating out of each other's plate. I mean, the very first date,
Hmm.
and so yeah, and all that aligned, and that's what we were just like, wow, man, like this was meant to be. Uh,
So
good.
Javier, what? I mean, I'm trying to again put myself in your shoes at this period. What stopped you from putting a ring on her finger when after the first and second child?
Well, no, the ring had been on her finger. I was
You were
just
were you married
we were
or no?
engaged.
Okay, but
No,
you
no,
never
no,
got
no.
married. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. So because the relationship was so volatile, John. Like
Okay.
I grew up. One of the things I didn't talk about earlier was I grew up in a very um, a household full of machismo. Like
Hmm.
Colombians, all my uncles, my dad included, all the men in my family always were just like women are a pain in the behind. Don't listen to them. Don't let them ruin your life. Don't do this. So I was very intolerant of any feelings. So as soon as her feelings would come, I was out.
Okay. That you now you just opened it up. So your belief system based on what you saw and heard growing up was just that is that the respect you had for women, but only your mother, like you said earlier,
That
was
was
really
it.
not there. Okay,
Nothing.
therein lies why. So you had to
Mhm.
have a shift in your mindset and a change of
Yes.
heart before you can have that sacrament of marriage. So go ahead,
Oh,
start
yeah.
with that point after having your second child. You're working in the oil industry. You're not home.
Yes.
You were your father, but your father was
Hmm.
married, but you weren't at that point. So you had these so many like conflicting things internally that you're
Yeah.
like, man, what am I doing? So when did you get to the point where like you just had to shake
Yeah.
yourself and go, damn it, what am I going to do? Right? Where was that
Yeah.
point at?
Oh, I'll tell you, man. And I was still struggling with the abuse, with the suppressed abuse, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, so the date is April 15th, 2015. That's the date, man. Um, I was on an oil and gas project in Ruston, Louisiana. That would be the last oil and gas project that I was ever on. I was at a hotel up on I-20, hotel I'd been staying at for about a year and a half, so something like that. Had just come in from dinner with all my work buddies, had been drinking. I was at this point in my life. I, we basically drank every night, went and had steak dinners. I identified with the money I had. And yeah, man, I walked into the hotel where we had been working for a year and a half. And that night, I took a look at myself in the mirror. And, I had passed that mirror a bunch of times and never looked at myself. But for some reason, and my wife is at home with the kids, raising the kids, working, doing all that stuff. And I'm away all the time. And so that night, I looked at myself in the mirror and I just didn't recognize the man I was looking at. I just didn't know who I was anymore. I was just completely lost in a false identity. And that mask of masculinity was strong, man. And I just couldn't believe. I have pictures of myself that night, and I couldn't believe who I was looking at. So, man, the Lord just dropped me to my knees that night. I had no intentions of going to sleep, like praying or anything like that. I mean, it was just the Holy Spirit just hit me, and I just dropped to my knees and started praying a prayer I had never prayed before. And that was for God to open doors of change for me, to help me, and to bring men of influence, of faith into my life that could mentor me and show me how to be a man, and help me get to know God better. I was done, man. So basically I dropped to my knees and I surrendered, John. That's what I did. I didn't know anything about surrender. I had no idea what that was, but that's what I did that night. And that's the night that my life changed forever.
So it's such a beautiful story. And it is because, and I'll tell you, anyone who becomes saved at any point in their life is just, it's a miracle and it's a blessing. But going through your story and the abuse, the father who was never present, the rebellious states, the yin and the yang, the good, the evil coming in and out, in and out. Then you find this woman of your dreams, almost this beautiful woman. And then you're like, man, what the hell is going on? Like, I have 2 kids. I'm away. I'm like my father. I'm not present. I'm not married. And then God just smacks you right in the gut, knocks you to your knees. And then he has this awakening. I call it the awakening. So your soul was awakened that night.
Yes.
And after that, right? So you knew and you were convicted by the Holy Spirit. And I'll tell you this, I don't know if you ever asked this question, but the Holy Spirit is putting it on me right now.
Sure.
Do you believe that your mother was praying for you throughout your every single day or almost every day for you?
1,000%. And she's told me that.
Yeah.
I'm not just thinking about that. I mean, I'm just saying that she told me, because, there came a point, which we'll get to, where I had to tell my mom everything. And, and yeah, she shared with me that it was a nightly thing, man. Nightly and all day.
All right. So a lesson learned for everyone here through Javier's story. Like, prayer is powerful. You don't
Yes.
think it is, and you may say, oh, you know what, I hope, whatever. But if you're diligent and you're open and your heart is open to confessing what your heart desires for her beloved son, Javier, his mother was praying for him every single day for a transformation of his lifestyle, to succumb to the Lord and become a man and learn from Jesus and those true disciples who are here on earth right now to mentor you. So go ahead and talk about how your life definitely took a pivot point from there and how you lived your life.
Oh man. So this is just my favorite, man, because this is like my favorite time of my life now. Right. And you see it, I just light up, man.
You have joy.
Yeah, I do, man. I found the true love of my life, man, Lord. And so
100%.
Yeah, man. So it was, I prayed that prayer, John, and it was the next day. Boom. I became a different dude the next day. And that sounds crazy, right? But like the way it manifests, the way it happened was I addressed what most men are going to address immediately: physical, right? I mean, I'm 5'7". I was 198 pounds. I had some work to do, right? So boom, I start working out, lose 30 pounds quickly. I started gaining that strength. I was like, oh man, I could do this. I could do this. I'm making changes in myself. And you're going to see that all my changes at first was secular. They were just like, I mean, God had everything to do with it, but he was working through me not through church. Next thing you know, I'm like, all right, well, the problem is I'm just not a good husband. I don't know how to. I don't even know how to be a man or a dad. So I start Googling, that's what we do now. We go to Google, how to be a man, how to be a dad, how to be a husband. Started discovering podcasts, man, like this awesome podcast. And I found, my great friend Larry Hagner's podcast. And I don't even know how I found it, but he was interviewing a guy named Omar Pinto, and Omar's life was just like mine. And I'm like, who is this guy? So I call him. I joined his organization, and that's when God started working at me, man, because that was the door that opened for me. I joined his organization, which is a small mastermind of men trying to be better husbands, fathers, brothers, men in the world. And so that was the door that opened. And then in there, I started meeting men of faith. And that brotherhood is so awesome, man, because it's like based on vulnerability and non-judgment. And you could just go bring it to the table and lay it all on the line, man. And people are going to love you through it and give you their perspective and show you that they've been through it too and all this stuff. And so, dude, I just started growing, man, and so for a few years, I was meeting these men of faith, and they were teaching me, and they were discipling me. But I was getting a lot of self-help, you know what I mean? Personal growth stuff too, which that was part of God's plan too, because that helped me started making all the changes that I need in my life. But eventually the self-help and the personal growth just kind of lost its power, and I was drawn to the Bible. And what I realized is that so many books that are used in the self-help world, man, they give you, they just kind of, they take information from the Bible and they just spin it and put it in different words. They just kind of take Jesus out of it. You know what I mean, dude?
Well, all right, dude, this is so relevant. Okay. When I wrote my first book, and I'm going to be honest, I can't tell you the whole story. I'll tell it later. But my first book was going to be called Molding Minds with my buddy, Ryan. And something happened which didn't allow me to write that book. It is finished, though, by the way. I did a rewrite, and it's coming out this year. But
nice.
My first book it's called Freedom to Ascend.
Yes.
And I'll tell you this right now. At first, it was a self-help book. And then what happened was it turned into that these pages will reveal stories from experiences, mine, that deeply impacted my life, and how loving God, others, and yourself can change the trajectory of your life. So what happened was God aligned, he's put a pivot on my first book and said, are you honoring yourself as a self-help book to help others, or are you honoring me, the true source of where you got your inspiration to write the book in the first place? And my editor, who's a Christian woman, was so great about, she said this one line to me, Javier. She said, John, after reading the first one, Molding Minds, and then you rewriting it, she goes, this is the way the book was meant to be, because it's authentic. It's not we call it, I'm not going to call it a self-help book. I'm just going to tell you it's basically my story, like you telling your story now. Mine is not as, and I don't, it's not as messy as yours, and I don't mean that out of disrespect.
No,
I'm just saying. No, I think the more trials and tribulations that a person goes through, I think the more that they go through, the more they learn from. So for you personally, you probably had so much more growth once you fell to your knees, got into the Dad's Edge, and then after that, you said, you know what? I'm done with self-help books. I'm going to go to the ultimate source, which is the Bible.
That's it.
That's it.
Man.
So,
and it's not about, man, there's so many good books out there. I'm not talking smack about them. I was just like, I'm going to the source, man. This is where I'm learning the most, And look, by no means am I some theologian, and I can't quote every scripture in the Bible and this and that. I mean, I more than anything just have a testimony and just such a solid, undeniable testimony nobody can take away from me. And I have faith that's just 2,000 miles deep, man. So
I like the 2,000 miles. That's good. That's very authentic. Javier, I just looked at my notes, and you said April 15, 2015 was when you had your transformation or awakening. And to be honest, that was the same year I had my spiritual awakening.
Oh, wow, dude.
It was the first year that my brother gave me a Bible, and I read it from cover to cover that year. So we are yoked together
Yes, we
in the
are.
same year to where we really gave our lives to Christ and said, that's it. I'm going deep into the word. And that transformation spot has
Mm-hmm.
made you an authentic individual and has made you a man of God and made you a better
Mm-hmm.
husband, made you a better
Mm-hmm.
father. And I see the
Yes.
joy in your eyes and in your expression. And I just, if you know, one thing you tell people is what, Javier? What would you tell people who are listening about if they're going through hell right now, where they went through the yin and yang that you went through? What would be the greatest message you could tell them?
My favorite thing to talk about and to tell people based on what has happened, what the Lord has done in my life, um, is I love talking about surrender. I love
Mm,
talking about giving up our human desire to control situations, to have expectations about outcomes, and to be attached to things. It's when I hit my knees on April 15th, 2015, I hit the bottom, and God was waiting for me there. And that was when I surrendered all control over my life. I said, God, please take this from me. I can't do this anymore. I need your help. I can't do it without you. I surrender. That's it. And ever since then, man, my life has been completely different. I have a peace in me that doesn't go away through the highs and through the lows. It doesn't matter, because life is going to be, that's just life. Life's going to throw things at you. And I just have a peace that runs through the middle of it, because anytime I'm faced with adversity, something that makes me uncomfortable, whatever it is, I surrender it to God. I don't try to control it anymore, man. I go to God for everything, and that's it.
dude, I didn't realize that until, I'm going to be honest, after the election in 2021. I think yeah, that was when it happened. I wanted to control. I listened to all these prophecies and all this stuff about
Mm.
what was going to happen. And I got so angry because they lied to me, right? I felt like this was it. Trump was back in. The country was going to take a turn for the better. And I'm not trying to get political here. I'm just telling you my
Yeah, I
own
feel you.
emotions during that time. But what I figured was this: I had to stop doing something. I had to stop listening to people, and I had to start going to God. I had to
Yeah.
learn to stop. I can control only what I
Mm-hmm.
can control and not think about other things I can't control. So I surrendered. I told the same thing. What you exactly? This is so beautiful, Javier. Is that
Yeah.
once you learn to surrender, and you get in the Word, and the words jump out off the pages into your heart, that
Yeah.
you have this peace and joy beyond all understanding. And people wonder, like, Javier, how come you're happy? Javier, how come you don't get upset all the time? Javier, why are you just a good dude? And you're like, because I've surrendered. I've
That's it,
learned
dude.
that
That's
I've
it.
let go of my ego, which is edging God
Yeah.
out, and I've
Yeah.
succumbed to his will. And once people
Yeah.
do that, you're
Mm-hmm.
free. You have true
Yeah.
freedom.
That's it,
And
man.
I love listening to your story, and I love just communicating with you through the YouVersion and devotionals and
Yeah.
getting to know you more, because I know your heart is so aligned with the precious blood of Jesus.
Yes, it
And
is.
knowing that is the thing I want everyone to hear. And this is what I'm getting from this, is that your father, because of his absence, and the bloodline was like, it wasn't there, it wasn't stable. But
Right.
then once you accepted Jesus's blood into your body, literally, I mean, I'm saying, like, you
Yeah.
finally succumbed to his will, and you said, Jesus, I need you. Like, you need to be my true father.
That's it.
I'm sure that's when you've said, you know what, this is when I find my peace. I know who my
Absolutely,
father
man.
is.
Absolutely, man. No doubt in my mind. And now I get the honor of trying to lead my earthly father in the same
Mm-hmm.
direction. He's a tough cookie to crack, man. But I encourage him, man, because he's in a situation right now with his business and his age and this and that, where he's he's very worried. Just today, I was on the phone with him, and he's worrying financially. What he's going to do. Is he going to lose the business? And I said, Dad, just let's just wait and see what God's going to do, man. And I pray about him, like, like
Um,
the moment that he decides to stop trying to control what's going to happen with that business, and he says, Lord, please take this from me. I trust you. Like, I put this in your hands. Let your will be done. Like, whatever it is, I'll take it. I promise you got to work. But so yeah, man, it's crazy how the tables turn, how the roles change, and but it's what I teach my kids. Surrender is what I teach my kids. It's what I teach the men in my Saturday morning group. We have a Wednesday night group of men too. Anytime I could talk about surrender, and what the Lord has done in my life because of that, I take that opportunity, because I think it's the first and most important lesson that people need to learn.
Well, Javier, I mean, your story resonated with me very strongly. I know I'm just, what I love to see is the triumph of wisdom, and the wisdom that you got
Yes.
that day, and the conviction and the transformation, because it brings me pure joy knowing that you're already in the heavenly realm. And I mean this when I say this very clearly. People have to understand this. Like, once you accept Jesus Christ into your life, you're saved. Like, he has you. He's got your back. He's holding you by his right hand. And you just continue to trust him. And like you said so beautifully, like, surrender
Yes.
your control to his will. And when you do
Mm-hmm.
that, you have freedom and peace and joy and love. And that's what God wants for all of us. You think God
Yeah.
really wants us to be like, you know what, Javier, there's something about you I don't like, so I'm gonna make you go through a little bit of hell on earth, right? Like, people, wake up. We're all on hell on earth. This is not the way. This is the
Right.
fallen world, man. Like, come
That's it.
on. But
Yeah.
you can, and people have to realize this. But you can have this provisional peace, like you have, and you know now, because you know the heart of God in Christ in you.
That's it. That's it, man. Yep. And
That's
it, and
it.
it, and it makes even, I know you're a runner, right? And
Yeah.
so am I. Not as good as you, but I have, but it's even little things like that. Like, it carries over into everything, I don't have these expectations when I go on a run, or run a race. I like to do trail races now.
Hmm.
I don't have any expectations, dude. I pray about it. I'm like, Lord, if it's your will that I finish this race, let me finish it. If not, if it's too much for me and I have to stop midway, that's cool too, man. Just, and I don't use that to quit, or to not give it
No,
my
no.
all, but it's the lack of expectations. It's the trust in his will, whatever his plan is, man. Like, and it just gives me joy. It takes away the pressure from everything. It's like this new job that I just
Mm-hmm.
accepted. People are like, dude, you're not thinking about this, man. Like, you're not tripping. Like, they're literally handing you the keys to this company. I mean, that's a huge responsibility, man. You're not losing sleep. Not a wink, dude. I surrendered it to God. The moment my boss came and talked to me about it, I said, hey, man, I'll get back with you. What did I do? I've been praying about it, and I have this peace about me. It's not being naive, man. It's confidence in God.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
truly is. It's true faith. It's true confidence in God. It's knowing that He's got me, and that regardless of what my expectations are, His will and His plan is better. And that's all I need. That's it. That's the end of the story, man. And I'm at peace. So let's do it.
Dude, I love it, man. I'm blessed to be a witness today to Javier and all his great wisdom that he shared today. Javier, I think the one thing that I would love to tell everyone is just, like, don't be afraid to take action to
Mm-hmm.
connect. That's the last thing I'm going to end on, because
Yes.
Javier would not be here today if I didn't take action honestly. And we talked about this. I have no idea. Only through the YouVersion app that I know that how we connected. Am I right?
Yeah, I don't
I don't
know,
know.
man.
Am I missing something? But
God went like this. He went, y'all together now somehow. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I know it was the YouVersion app, and uh, maybe Facebook. I don't know, man. But I'll tell you one thing, man. I'm glad we connected, and you have a brother down here in Louisiana, man.
well, if I ever need to go go fishing down there, or just gets that nice south heat. I
I
got some
got you,
friends
man.
in Georgia too, right next door to you. So,
There you
well, hey,
go,
listen,
man.
brother. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Just you told a beautiful story, and the surrendering is it's so perfect for what everyone needs.
Yeah, I mean, I know you have audience of men and women, but my God has put it on me to do men's ministry, to work with men. That is I love that, man. I love discipling men. I love bringing men into a relationship with God. I love bringing men closer to knowing themselves. So I would just say, man, like for all men out there, take that mask of masculinity off, man. Be vulnerable. Find someone you can speak to. There are some men out there whose lives are cool and fun and everything, and that's great, man. God bless you. But so many of us are living this life where we're just kind of hiding and suffering in silence. I would just say, get a relationship with God, give God a chance. You give everything else in the world a chance. Give the one who loves you the most a chance. Embrace vulnerability and find men who can help you become the man that he created you to be, man. You will be grateful. You will find joy and you will find peace. Yeah, man, that's the message I love giving to men.
That's perfect. I will, in the show notes, I'll put your information for anyone who wants
Yeah,
to contact you, be part of your Saturday, Wednesday group. And
yeah,
again, I cannot say this enough. I will say just want to pray for your father, that no matter what he's going through, that he is protected, he will be provided no matter what, and that he just has to trust in the Lord, and he will
that's
provide everything for him. So I pray that for your father, and I pray for all those people, your family, Javier. I pray for your entire family, that they will be blessed and protected by the precious blood of Jesus Christ. And I really do pray for you, having the impact that you have and will have and continue to have until you exhaust all your gifts on this earth in the flesh. So,
Amen.
Javier, it's been
Amen.
a blessing, brother.
Yes, sir.
And
Likewise.
everyone, this class is dismissed.